Howdy, and welcome to a Tea Party Like No Other. It's Triumphant Thursdays on Tea Time with Afternoon Social, presenting Steph West, social coach, Selfish Social Club founder, and podcast host. Grab your favorite tea cup, let's go!
Good afternoon, and welcome to Tea Time with Afternoon Social. Today is Triumphant Thursdays, and we have a fantastic guest with us this weekend, and her name is Steph West. She is a social coach for neurodivergent students. She has her own podcast, and then she used to be a special education teacher and whole big administrative background, and developed a couple of schools, so she's got a lot on her plate. But today, we're going to get into those stories tomorrow on Friends Day Fridays, but today we're going to talk to her about one of her other hobbies and her other interests that she likes to do. And she competes in Ironman competitions, which is very interesting to do. So we're going to hear all about that today. How are you doing, Steph?
I am awesome. How are you, Teresa?
Just great, thank you. And so today, an Ironman competition. That is a big triumphant thing to do, because I understand it takes a lot of training and a lot of work to compete in something like that. So give us maybe tell us a little fun fact about you and explain a little bit about this Ironman competition.
Yeah, absolutely. Let's see. Fun fact about me is that I thrive on the concept of challenge. So if I feel like there's something that I'm not sure that I can do, or if I feel like other people think I can't do it, that is very motivating to me. Sometimes that's healthy and sometimes it's not so much. But I would say that it's mainly my own concept of what I can and cannot do. It's not really so much other people's, but I would say that has been the big driving force behind my business life, my personal life. Most of the things I've accomplished have just been me having that voice in my head that says, I don't think you can do that. And then me saying, watch me, you know, right. Or as they say here in Texas, hold my beer. Yeah. So yeah, in Ironman, I think the majority of people have maybe heard that term, but don't even really know what it is. So an Ironman triathlon is a 2.4 mile swim, 112 mile bike ride, and then a 26.2 mile run, all consecutively. So that's what an Ironman is. It's all three of those things, all of those distances, all at the same time, with, a couple thousand other people in the pain cave alongside with you. Yeah. So that's what an Ironman is. And so I've done one full Ironman, and then I've done 6 half Ironmans, which is half of all that. And then numerous other smaller triathlons. And I am not an overly athletic person. I'm not a coordinated person. So it definitely was something that I didn't ever think I could do. But I decided that I needed to prove that I could. So that's my story of how that all came about.
That's good. So how much training did you have to do for all of that? Some people, when they start doing triathlon, they go for Ironman straight out of the gate. I don't think that's the best choice to make. So I've been doing triathlons for 10 years now. And so I started with the smaller distances and then have built my way up. So because of that, I'm pretty much always in training mode. I stay conditioned all year round. And I also do multiple smaller races during the year. So I wasn't starting from scratch. I was starting from I'd already done 3 half Ironman races by the time I decided to do the full one. But a typical training protocol is minimum of 4 months. And that's really for any distance that you're doing. It's about 4 months. The biggest thing is that you have to start building up your endurance. For an athlete like me, an average athlete, the swim is between an hour and a half to 2 hours. The bike ride is 6 to 8 hours, and the run is 4 to 6 hours. Those would be the times for someone like me who's average. So that's the biggest thing, that is you have to start working on your endurance. It is definitely not something that someone could just go out and do. Sometimes I hear people say, I think I might be able to do that. No, it's not something that you can just go out and do. And then having all three of them back to back, you're not just swimming 2.5 miles. You're not just doing a 112-mile bike ride. You're not just running a marathon. You're doing all three of them consecutively. So it's a minimum of 4 months, with the main focus being on building your endurance and being able to not fall apart, during the race. And then, of course, I actually had to hire a nutritionist because I recognized that I would not survive if I didn't have somebody help me adjust my eating, because it's significant. Just the amount that you have to consume, calories, carbohydrates, your hydrate. I live in Texas, so hydration is a huge issue. So in addition to training physically, you also have to make sure that you are getting proper nutrition, proper hydration, sleep. I actually got sick, I think 5 times during the 4 months I was training for the full Ironman. I got COVID. I got an upper respiratory infection. I had emergency dental surgery and was out for a week. I remember it was 5 things that happened. I got the flu, all within these 4 months, because my body was just under a lot of stress. It's a totally different way of living for a while.
Right.
So,
yeah, because you don't think about that when you say consecutively and all those hours. You don't think about, they're not eating because they're competing. They're not taking breaks in between. And
yeah, there's no sitting down you could, right? You could sit down for a snack, but that's not ideally how it works.
Right.
So, yeah.
Because it's still a competition and you just still want to try to be first, or if you could.
Yeah.
Right. So do you travel different places for it, or?
That's a great question. So up until a year ago, all the races I had done were here in Texas, where I am. So there's a half Ironman every year, about 4 hours away from me. And so I had done that one 3 times. And then the Ironman that I did is also here in Texas. That one was close to where the half Ironman is held as well. So before a year ago, everything I had done was here in Texas. Texas obviously is huge. So there's, lots of different places to go. Mm-hmm. Last summer, about 7 weeks after I did the full Ironman, I went with 3 friends to Hawaii, and we did a half Ironman in Hawaii. So that was my first time. They call it a racecation. That was my first time traveling and racing. And then this year in March, I went by myself to New Zealand and Australia. And I did a half Ironman in both countries 3 weeks apart. So I just went by myself. I took my bike with me. Yeah. And 2 days after I got to New Zealand, I had a half Ironman. And then I vacationed for 3 weeks all over New Zealand and Australia. And then the day before I left to come home, I did a half Ironman in Australia.
Oh, fun.
So it was really fun. I met some people before I went. I met some people literally during the race. Mm-hmm. So it was a really amazing experience. It was a lot of logistics, a lot of planning. Traveling with my bike was quite challenging, but it was the best month of my life. It was really awesome. And then that was in March. On Memorial Day, I did a smaller race here in Texas.
So I do multiple races throughout the year, but most of them tend to be on the smaller side. But I consider that already to be a successful 2023. The triathlon season in the US, the races usually don't start until mid-March, maybe late March because of the weather.
Right.
But on the other side of the world, it's the opposite, right? So I had already finished my 2 biggest races of the year before anybody else on my team had even done a race. I was already done with my year. So that was really amazing.
Now, what would be, you said you started 10 years ago and versus now, what would be one of the most impactful challenges or lessons that you learned from comparing from when you first started to now? What was the difference? What
have I learned along the way?
Right. What was your triumph?
Yeah, I would say the need for coaching and support, honestly. I think I didn't hire a coach until maybe 4 years ago. Mm-hmm. And I hired her to help me get ready for a race that I ended up not being able to do because I broke my foot at the time. And then when I did the full Ironman, I hired a coach because I just knew I have no idea how to do that. But I think I'm a very independent person. I definitely believe I can do anything by myself.
Right.
But I have learned in triathlon, in business, in life, in pretty much everything that yes, you can do anything by yourself, but you can do it better and faster if you have somebody who knows more than you do helping you along the way. So I would say that's probably one of the biggest things that I've learned is that yes, I can do it by myself, but I'm not going to do as well, and it's not going to be as successful as if I had someone else helping me along the way. Mm-hmm. And a great example of this is I thought going into the full Ironman that you basically take the times you have in your half Ironman and you just double them. Mm-hmm. But the reality is you cannot do double the distance in the same pace. You physically can't do that. You have to slow down your paces. Otherwise, right, you will burn yourself out. Mm-hmm. And so that was really hard for me to adjust to because I just wanted to keep doing the same paces. And my coach had to tell me repeatedly that that's not how this works. You actually do much slower because you have the full Ironman took me almost 15 hours. And so you have to slow down. Otherwise you will not finish. You will burn yourself out. You'll crash. So I think just back to the original question, that I would say that's probably the biggest thing I've learned is being willing and open to learn from other people who have been doing this longer, have done more, know more, are experts in it, not thinking that I can do it all on my own.
Yeah. And then, like I said, that relates completely to life and to if you're wanting a long-term business or long-term anything, you don't slow down and pace you, like you said, pace yourself. You won't finish. You'll get burnt out and doing too much.
Yeah.
We physically just can't handle all of that at once. So,
absolutely.
On that, is there one more piece of advice or anything? If anyone is out there is interested in doing an Ironman, what would be your first piece of advice?
I think I have to say that I feel like doing the Ironman really proved to me that I can do anything. And so much of our challenges in life are in our head. Not to say that things do not exist, right? Not to say that we don't have barriers and biases and prejudices and different levels of access to things. But I think so much of what we think we can and cannot do is our own self-talk. Like I said, I'm not an overly athletic person. I'm not a coordinated person, but I can follow a plan
that someone who knows more than me has laid out for me. I can follow that plan. And the interesting thing is that in my training program, there's some days where I'll look at my workout and I'll think, I can't do that, but I'll go out and I'll try. And guess what? I can do it. The AI program knew that I could do it. The AI program had more faith in my ability than I did.
Right.
So I think whether it's an Ironman, whatever it is that people want to do, I think we talk ourselves out of it so much more than anybody else would, so much more than is realistic. And, so whatever, any big goal that you have, I think it's just a matter of figuring out, instead of looking 6 months down the road, what can I do today? What can I do tomorrow? I was really surprised that I got to an Ironman, but it's because it was day by day, right? This is my plan today. This is my plan tomorrow. This is my plan. It's just day by day by day. And then you look back 6 months later and you're like, oh my gosh, I can't believe that I just pulled that off. So I think I would say, getting out of your own way and just being willing to try and go for it. And also, instead of being overwhelmed by the ginormity of the goal, just day by day, what are the steps that you need to take day by day?
That is fabulous. Well, that's Triumphant Thursdays today, and she's going to be back with us for Friends Day Fridays tomorrow, and we're going to get to hear a lot more from Steph about what she's actually doing with neurodivergent students. Yes, I always struggle with that word. And some other interesting accomplishments and challenges that she's faced. So join us tomorrow as we talk with Steph again. Thank you, Stephanie. We'll see you tomorrow.
Absolutely. I'll see you then.